Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the story of how one small country, Estonia, basically tore up the old rulebook on what a nation can be. It reinvented itself from the ground up as a digital-first society, and in the process, created a kind of blueprint for the future, a future we might all be living in sooner than we think.
So let's just start with this huge kind of mind-bending question. What if a country wasn't really about its physical borders anymore? What if it was more of an idea, where being a citizen is less about your zip code and more about your access, your participation? Sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, right? Well, this is the radical concept at the very heart of what Estonia has been building for decades.
And the official name for this grand experiment is e-Estonia. So what does that actually mean? It means technology isn't just a nice-to-have, it's the core infrastructure. It's how the government and its people talk to each other. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like an operating system, but for an entire country.
So how on earth did this all happen? You got to understand, for Estonia, going digital wasn't some fancy tech project. It was a matter of survival. After breaking away from the Soviet Union, the country was basically starting from scratch. They had a tiny budget and a massive task: build a modern, efficient state. So they made a hugely strategic bet to build it online.
And to really get the scale of this transformation, you just have to look at the before and after. I mean, think about it. One generation ago, daily life was all about Soviet-style internal passports and wasting hours, sometimes days, in long lines for the simplest things. Now, that's all gone. It's been replaced by a secure digital ID card that lets you do anything from voting to signing a legally binding contract from a coffee shop halfway around the world. It's not just an upgrade, it's a completely different reality.
Now, this didn't happen overnight. It was built piece by piece, brick by digital brick. It started with things that seem pretty normal now, like e-banking and filing your taxes online. But the two big breakthroughs, the ones that changed everything, came in 2001 and 2002. First was the X Road, which is the secure digital highway that lets all the different government databases talk to each other. And second was the mandatory national digital ID card. Those two things right there, they're the pillars that hold the entire system up.
And the result of that long journey? 99%. Let that sink in. That is the slice of all Estonian public services you can now access online, anytime, day or night. There's a running joke in Estonia that the only two things you still have to show up in person for are getting married and getting divorced. That's just how deeply this digital DNA is woven into the fabric of daily life.
So, what do you do after you've perfected this incredible digital infrastructure for your own citizens? Well, if you're Estonia, you do something truly radical. In 2014, they launched the e-residency program. They basically opened their digital borders and invited the whole world to come and use their system.
And you know what? The world answered. We are talking over 100,000 e-residents from more than 170 countries. But these aren't just vanity numbers. These are entrepreneurs. People who have started over 27,000 companies based in Estonia, many of which are run from thousands of miles away. It's like Estonia created a whole new kind of economic community, one that's completely digital.
And this program isn't just about efficient paperwork. It's about building a real community. You don't have to take my word for it. Listen to Dr. Priya E. Abraham, who's an e-resident herself. She calls it a door opener to an international network. I mean, she actually co-founded her company with another e-resident she met through the program. It's a perfect example of how these powerful human connections are being built on top of this digital foundation.
So what is the real draw? Why are people signing up? Well, yeah, starting and running an EU company from anywhere is a huge perk. But beyond that, people are tapping into this global brain trust of other founders and experienced mentors. And maybe the most telling number of all is this: 30% of new e-residents join just because a friend told them to. That kind of word of mouth, you can't buy that. It tells you this community is providing some serious real-world value.
So it all sounds like a digital dream come true, right? A utopia. But here's the flip side of that coin. When your entire country runs on code, when it's totally digitized, the risk is also total. An attack on the system isn't just a data breach, it's a full-blown national crisis. The stakes couldn't possibly be higher.
And this brings us to what is, without a doubt, the most critical challenge in Estonia's entire story. How in the world do you defend a nation that, for all intents and purposes, exists online?
The threat isn't just about stealing data anymore. It's a direct threat to the very functioning of society itself.
And the threats they face are just relentless. I mean, you name it, they're dealing with it. State-sponsored cyber attacks, ransomware trying to shut down hospitals and power plants, even attacks on their technology supply chains. And they have to look to the future, preparing for things like quantum computing that could shatter today's encryption. On top of all that, they're still managing the risk from older software. An estimated 40% of public e-services still run on it. It's a constant battle on all fronts. So, what's the plan? Estonia's response is this massive national cybersecurity strategy. You can really break it down into 4 key missions. First, get the governance right. Streamline who's in charge. Second, make society smarter about cyber threats. Train everyone, from government workers to private citizens. Third, constantly upgrade the tech, moving to what's called a zero-trust model. And finally, get better at crisis management, making sure the most vital services are rock solid. And this whole strategy isn't just about building higher walls. It's about being proactive and smart. One of the coolest parts is this thing called the Cyber Shield. Think of it like putting an extra layer of digital armor around the most critical parts of the country, the power grid, healthcare, banking, to make absolutely sure they can survive a massive attack.
But, not all the challenges are external cyber attacks. And that brings us to the final and maybe the most important piece of this whole puzzle. At the end of the day, technology is only as good as its ability to serve everybody. So how does a nation that's all in on digital make sure nobody gets left behind in the dust?
Just look at this number for a second. 98% of Estonians have a digital ID. By any standard, that is a stunning, incredible success. But it also throws a giant spotlight on the core challenge. What about that other 2%? Because when your entire society runs online, being in that tiny minority isn't a small problem. It means you risk being completely cut off from the most essential services.
And that 2%, it isn't just some abstract group. We're talking about real people. It includes elderly citizens who might struggle with new tech. It includes foreigners who face language barriers trying to use these services. It includes low-income families that might not have a reliable computer or internet. And it includes people with disabilities who run into all sorts of accessibility roadblocks. It's a constant, ongoing effort to design a digital society that is truly for everyone. So, where does all this leave us? After this incredible 30-year journey, can Estonia's experience really be a blueprint for the rest of the world? It's time to weigh the good against the bad, the promise against the peril.
At the end of the day, it really does boil down to this balance. On one side, the promise is huge. You get unbelievable efficiency and transparency, you get global reach with programs like e-residency, and you get a potential new model for how governments can work in the 21st century. But the perils are just as real. The constant threat of cyber attacks, the very real risk of leaving people behind, and the never-ending difficult job of securing the very systems that make it all possible.
And so that's what we're left with. Estonia has gone out and done the hard work. They've laid out a bold, audacious blueprint for a digital nation. They've proved what's possible. The big question is no longer for them. It's for the rest of us. Are we ready to build from it? Are we ready to learn from their incredible successes and from their very real struggles and start building our own digital futures? Thanks for watching The Explainer.